Did you cover it?
No. I talked about it.
Hold on. Did I tell you not to cover it?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Did I talk about it?
Hold on. Why didn't you cover it?
I talked about it extensively on, I guess part of this.
No. We're not talking about radio. We're talking about CNN.
I'm gonna give you an answer.
Okay. So my point is, though, you're saying you had the opportunity to do it and you didn't do it.
All right, guys. So former head of MSNBC, Phil Griffin, and the former head of CNN, Jeff Zucker, sat down with CNN host Michael Smerconish to discuss the media's role in polarization. And I found this conversation to be fascinating because both of these two executives ran the two main liberal media propaganda outlets, MSNBC and CNN. So obviously, right, they should be experts on how the media is driving polarization, being that they were responsible for it, especially during the Trump era. And both of these executives were confronted on a story that both of their networks decided to ignore because we know that they are propaganda outlets of the Democrat Party, okay? Which is the Hunter Biden story, which, if covered properly, could have affected the outcome of the election. So they actually were confronted by this current CNN host on why they did not cover the Hunter Biden story more, knowing that a couple years later, that story turned out to be true. And I gotta tell you guys, they got every excuse in the book except the truth in regards to why they ignored that story. Take a look.
In controversy that you may think are bullshit. Let me give you an example. I believe, they know this because I talked about it on air, I think that the Hunter laptop was worthy of more airing than it received right before the election. Either of you agree with me on that? Do you regret, how about if I ask it this way specifically, do you regret not dealing with it before the election?
Well, I mean, I think the question is, we did deal with it, but to the degree that, you would have thought was appropriate. I think the answer is in the final 2 weeks, it was looked at. We did not know enough about it. There was not within 2 weeks of the election, the ability, when the messenger on that story was Rudy Giuliani, okay? No, that's the problem. It's like you're going to give a lot of legitimacy to Rudy Giuliani delivering, he's got the goods. So part of the issue with that story was who was delivering the goods, okay? That's one. That doesn't mean that we didn't look into it. We did look into it. But first of all, with regard to the son of the candidate, he was the son of the candidate. He wasn't the candidate. The question that you'll come back with is, well, but what role did the candidate play in his business dealings? Frankly, with 10 days or 2 weeks to go, it was looked at by very credible organizations, including the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal, and they found nothing at that time, okay? So my point is, it's easy to say we should have spent more time on that. Listen, do I think it's legitimate to look at? Sure. Do I think that it's a legitimate criticism to say that in the 10 days, 14 days prior to the election, you didn't spend enough time on it? Not really.
What do you think?
He was never arrested. The Justice Department was looking into it, never reported it until he is. He's the son of a candidate. I don't think it's a main story until that happens. Now, we looked into it. NBC News did. Tom Winter and Ken DeLorean did a great job. They met with Rudy. He brought a couple of pages printed out from the so-called from the computer. They asked for a digital copy of it. They didn't get it. But I don't think it was a big story before the election because he was never charged with it.
Hey, Michael, let me ask you, in the 2 weeks before the election, when that came out, I don't remember the exact timing.
I think 11 days before.
11 days. So you probably had 2 shows prior to the election on CNN, right?
Right, one, but 2, yeah.
Well, okay, whatever. Did you cover it?
No. I talked about it.
Hold on. Did I tell you not to cover it?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Did I?
Hold on. Why didn't you cover it?
I talked about it extensively on, I guess part of this.
No. We're not talking about radio. We're talking about CNN.
I'm gonna give you an answer.
Okay. So my point is, though, you're saying you had the opportunity to do it and you didn't do it.
I regret it.
Okay.
I regret it. I talked about it. I talked about it extensively on radio, but no, Jeff's right. I didn't, and I second guess myself now. I don't think it's a huge story.
Right.
I don't think it's a huge story, but I think I look bad by not talking about it at all. I should have said something about the damn issue. That's what I'm talking about.
But you didn't know all the facts at the time either.
No, but I think that we looked partisan by not giving it some airing.
Yeah, I think you got to. I don't disagree with that, but I think you have to be careful to just because somebody throws a smoke bomb into the arena I think listen, it is worth real examination, but in the 11 days prior to the election, it involves the son of a candidate. Who clearly has issues and troubles. What is the extent to which you should do it? We reported on it, but we didn't report on it to the degree that you're saying you thought would have been proper. Okay, that's fine.
Do you regret giving Trump as much air as you gave him in 2016?
Of course I do. I've admitted this publicly. I've said so. Now I don't believe that's why he became president of the United States. It's like, I had a lot of power, but I didn't have that much power. And so, yes, of course, I think that we made a mistake. And
did you then try to compensate for it thereafter?
And what's I don't understand the question.
By giving him a hell of a lot less, or by changing the
but
way
then
in
he was
which
president of the United States.
Right,
So
but there seemed to have been a tonal shift after his election. Is that fair?
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. They got every excuse in the book except the truth, which is that they didn't want to cover it because they know that if they was to cover it, it would increase the chances of Trump remaining president. Now, Jeff Zucker, the former CEO of CNN, says, well, we vetted it and we just didn't think it was worth spending much time on. We vetted it. But again, the reality is that the way they covered it is not one of those things where you say, hey guys, this story is out here. We don't know if it's true or not, but it's out here, okay? No, that's not the way you covered it. You covered it as if it was untrue, right? 100% untrue. There's no chance it can be true. You said it was Russian disinformation. That Rudy Giuliani is an agent of Russia, right? Spreading Russian disinformation, which is what the FBI says. But it turns out that this was not that, right? And there was no real reason to believe that this was Russian disinformation from the start. There was evidence, photos, right? Photos of text messages and pictures of Hunter Biden, doing drugs, right? Doing all types of things that the mainstream liberal media should have covered, given the fact that, again, Joe Biden was running for president, and there is reason to believe that his influence is being sold overseas to foreign entities, right? Possibly foreign governments. That story should have been covered. And when CNN did cover it, it's not like they covered it from a neutral perspective. No, they covered it as if it was undoubtedly not true when they did cover it. So Jeff Zucker here is trying to pretend like, well, we vetted it and we didn't have any real reason to believe that it was true. It's like, bruh, you didn't want to believe it was true. But again, that's not worse than the MSNBC guy who says that, well, Hunter was never arrested, but that didn't keep you from covering Matt Gaetz, right? Look at how they covered Matt Gaetz. They had no problems pushing the Matt Gaetz scandal, even though he wasn't arrested, he wasn't charged. It was just an investigation. Now, fast forward a year later, there's not going to be any charges against Matt Gaetz. There likely won't be any charges. So you were completely wrong about that. But you covered it because it fit the narrative. It was propaganda to smear a Republican and help Democrats. That's why you covered it. Hunter Biden was not that. That's why you didn't cover it. It's really that simple. Because we know if this same story would have came out about one of the Trump kids, they would be all over it. There would be no, we need to vet it. We need to see if it's actually true. No. They would have covered it, right? They want to question the credibility of the messenger. They didn't care who the messenger was. Evidenced by the fact that they went along with the whole Christopher Steele and the Steele dossier, aka Trump PP tapes, he's a Manchurian candidate of Russia conspiracy theory, right? These people pushed the Steele dossier as if it was fact. They said that it was corroborated, right? Fully corroborated. This is what they said.
Parts of the now infamous dossier on Trump have proven to be true.
I know the history of the dossier, but it hasn't been discredited. In fact, it's been the opposite. It's been corroborated. Much of the dossier has been corroborated.
This discredited dossier, which was paid for,
Your intel community has corroborated all of the details in there. The meeting.
Some of the substantive content of the dossier, we were able to corroborate in our intelligence community assessment, which from other sources, in which we had very high confidence level.
We know that with the FISA application, the relevant parts of Christopher Steele's dossier were corroborated.
Say that if the application included information from the dossier, it would only be after the FBI had, in fact, corroborated information through its own investigation.
We also know that as time goes on, more and more parts of the Steele dossier get corroborated.
So when the president just refers to it as fake dossier, that is false.
I don't think that is the accurate characterization for the entirety of the dossier.
To be clear, investigators have corroborated part of the dossier.
The dossier has been corroborated by the intelligence community.
U.S. investigators have corroborated some of the allegations in that dossier. Although
We do know that parts of it have been corroborated.
It's not been corroborated, but it hasn't been disproven either.
Is there anything in the dossier that has been disproven?
No.
But not one thing has been disproven. No major thing from the dossier has been conclusively disproven.
To date, none of it has been disproven, and whole big parts of it are holding up.
The dossier holds up well.
Now, fast forward 4 years later to today, Christopher Steele, the alleged author of the Steele dossier, can't even corroborate it himself, which has led to the FBI charging a guy for essentially lying about the source of the Steele dossier.
This trial, Brett, deals with Igor Danchenko. He's charged with 5 counts of lying to the FBI. Durham insists that Danchenko was the primary source for British spy Christopher Steele, who compiled the widely talked about yet debunked Steele dossier full of salacious accusations about Donald Trump. The indictment alleges Danchenko lied to the FBI about his own intelligence sources and his connections to Steele. On the stand a short time ago, and this was something, Brett, FBI agent Brian Otten testified the Bureau offered Chris Steele $1 million if he could corroborate his dossier. Steele told officials he could not. Despite that lack of corroboration, the agent testified the FBI used the unproven dossier to get a court-approved surveillance warrant for Carter Page, the former 2016 Trump campaign advisor. Durham also reminded federal judge Anthony Trenga that Danchenko was a known entity to the FBI when agents interviewed him about the dossier in January 2017 because he had been the subject of a counterintelligence investigation back in 2009. Danchenko was also a paid FBI informant.
Yeah, so I don't want to hear anything about, well, the sourcing on this, it came from Rudy Giuliani, blah, 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 when you guys are essentially pushing information about Trump, right, that alleges that he likes to get peed on by Russian prostitutes that came from a guy that obviously was working for the Clinton campaign and a bunch of other sketchy characters who had no proof or evidence to back up this document. Okay? So again, you don't care about the source, and what you care about is, okay, does this make the Democrats look good? Okay, if it makes them look good, we're going to go with it. If it makes them look bad, we're not going to go with it. If it makes Republicans look good, we're not going to go with it. If it makes them look bad, we're going to go with it. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. And I wish these dudes would just come out and say, yeah, you know what? We were partisan hacks, right? We were partisan hacks. We were working on behalf of the Democrat Party. And if you say that, at least I can respect the fact that you're telling the truth. I can't respect these excuses because these things never apply when it comes to stories that are favorable towards the Democrat Party. You don't have to check those. You never fact check and thoroughly check those and source those to see if those are true. You just run with it. You just run with it, right? So with that being said, again, I found this exchange here to be interesting. The excuses that these executives make for why they didn't cover the Hunter Biden story. But hey, I mean, in the process, they've killed the credibility of these mainstream liberal networks, which I guess is a good thing. I guess it's a good thing. In CNN's case, it's a terrible thing because they have essentially become the least trusted name in news because of how bad Jeff Zucker ran that network into the dirt with Democrat Party propaganda. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.